All right. Party people in the place to be, vandals, and whatever else might be lurking out there in the darkness. This is a brand new Pink Spots. We haven't done one of these in a while since well before I got sick. So yeah, it's pretty good to be, drawing back one of these. And we're kind of doing a theme this month, huh, Joey? We're going to be talking about Grant
Yeah,
Morrison books. This is our first big jump into
entry.
that.
Yeah,
We're going to be
yeah,
talking tonight about Annihilator, written by,
yeah.
like we said, Grant Morrison, with art by Frazier Irving. It is lettered
Fraser.
by Jared K. Fletcher. It's
Mhm.
designed by John J. Hill, and it is edited by Greg Tombarello. And it is published by Legendary Books. They are, of course, a film company. They only put out a few books while they were around, but I think all there were really good presentations. I don't know if you checked out any of the other stuff that they released. Everything was either issues or hardbacks, and they had just really good creative teams on. Like they had a lot of Simon Bisley books. They had Matt
Okay.
Wagner like writing with Simon Bisley on some of their other stuff. It was pretty cool.
So is it like a British company or European company or?
No, they're a film company. They're part of Warner Brothers. They're the same company that
Okay.
put out like 300. They put out uh
So they just put out like
Pacific Rim, like because their first couple graphic novels they put out were Pacific Rim books.
hmm Gotcha. So they
Yeah.
decide, oh, let's just try doing an imprint thing and see if that if we can kick that off into gear or something. So you're saying this isn't around anymore, Legendary?
No, they only
The
kind of put out a
imprint?
handful of stuff for some
Yeah.
reason. A lot of it was pretty big. Like I said, they put out well, one of the funny things they put out Holy Terror by Frank Miller. I don't know if you read that
Okay.
one.
No. Nope.
They put out one called 13 Coins that was written and drawn by Simon Bisley. They did the Tower Chronicles with Matt Wagner and Simon Bisley, which was pretty cool. I've the first book of that, and
I'd have to look into it then, because I'm a big Bisley fan, so that sounds interesting. I love Matt Wagner too, so
as far
yeah.
as the rest of the stuff I know that they put out, it was all tied to either Pacific Rim or the movie The Immortals.
Okay, okay, yeah, maybe that's where they went wrong.
But but yeah, before we
Yeah,
get into Annihilator, do you have a check-in, bro?
yeah, I could do a couple things. There's a few things I touched on Sunday. I went and helped out L co-hosting for the House of Nerds, and I finally read this. I went and picked it up just before the holidays, and read that.
Is that the
Magical
third
beat,
one?
yeah, Magical
Oh,
Beatdown 3,
snap.
man. Yeah, yeah, good stuff, good stuff. Like, whoop.
Is it? Oh man, look at that. I love Jen Woodall's just
Yeah, yeah,
wacky uh
yeah.
like
And now
girl
this
fighter
company,
manga.
Sprocket, Silver Sprockets, is I have a few other their books. Now they're putting out PDFs. You can go on their site and buy the PDFs.
Oh, for
So
real?
yeah,
Cool.
yeah, you can get PDFs of all their back issues and shit like that. So anything that's out of print, you can pick it up digitally. I read the Firstborns, Pleskins, the new book by the Emilio and Emilia Pleskin, with art by Luca Basayo. He's the same guy who drew
Heavy metal drummer?
the heavy metal drummer. Yeah, the same artist. Not the same. They didn't get the other Tocado or Tokabi. He didn't color anything in this one, but yeah,
It looks
pretty
similarly
cool.
colored though, huh?
Yeah, there's a few pages here that like, whoops, is that it? It's about a kid like in a suburban suburban neighborhood, gets bullied, chased into the woods where this meteorite hits the earth, and when he touches it, this crazy supernatural shit happens to him, and that's kind of where the book ends. So you don't know exactly what's going on, but you know, definitely a fun little cliffhanger at the end there. See what goes on in the next one. Their books are always pretty solid though, the Pleskins, and that. Whoops, excuse me. Issue 2 of Nobody's Girls.
Okay, that's another Sumerian, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's it. Two of them, yeah, two. And the vibes I got from the first one have not changed. Definitely Ghost World vibes, you know. Uh,
It got that old Fantagraphic style, kind of.
Style, and it follows the very similar beats from the story from Ghost World. the younger girl gets a little infatuated with the older man. Uh, and instead of teenage boredom being the driving force of the story, it's them trying to find this girl that was possibly an old high school friend and I think student that is possibly in this snuff film that the teacher rented that he saw.
That's
That
right.
was
It's kind of
hidden
like
hidden within a VHS cassette. Like later on into the video, it splices and it's like a home video of what could possibly be a snuff film. You don't see the whole thing there, but yeah. So they're on a search to try to find the girl to see if it was actually real snuff film or just like a made up fake one. So it's pretty good. It's a 3 issues. So next one, that's it. It's done. The story wraps up on the next one. So
okay.
I've enjoyed that one. It's good, black and white. Yeah, good
That's
stuff.
cool.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
that it?
pretty much. Yeah,
Okay. Well, I had a really eventful holiday season. I read a lot. Like I'm not going to dive into everything, but like a few things that really stuck out is I finally got into this, read it a bit.
oh yeah,
I'm liking it. I think it's cool. I really hope our main characters get a little more likable. Like I kind of like a lot of the side characters a lot better than the main characters. Like Lee
yeah.
Harvey Oswald kind of steals the book in my opinion, at
And
least in the
I
first arc.
find there's a parallel in the style of the book, like visually. I find his art style of what's his name, who draws Department of Truth, kind of definitely has a similar style to Frazier Irving. I find
Yeah, he's
a little bit. Yeah.
there's a lot of Sinkovic in his stuff too, especially when he draws
Hmm.
like the Starface man and he's like
Yeah,
looking
yeah,
all scary. Yeah, that's very Bill Sinkovic.
yeah, yeah.
And, yeah, and also read the first cut
Crossover.
of
Yeah,
this. It was a little better than I thought it was going to be. I
yeah.
mean,
It's fun.
yeah, it's I
Like,
kind of the weird thing is when actual other comic book characters show up in it that aren't the characters of the book, it's jarring because it's so few and far between. I wish it was a little
yeah,
more constant because you'll be going and it'll mostly be about like I forget what the main girl's name is and the little kid and stuff,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then all of a sudden like 4 issues of not seeing anybody, then all of a sudden like hey here's Madman, here's Negan, you're just kind of
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
okay wow I forgot that there was actually supposed to be other people's comics in here, so like
Yeah, yeah. They built it up way more than like a crossover that's gonna a crossover like you've never seen. And it's pretty much just uh, Donny Cates
yeah.
crossover
Well,
universe.
his
It's like
stuff, and then like yeah, then you got Hit
the
Girl, you got
occasional,
Negan, and Madman, and
like
those are
what
the
Hit Girl was in there for what, a couple panels. Same thing,
couple
Savage
panels.
Dragon. You maybe see for a few panels when there's that big brawl in the
Oh, there
city.
there was that one big splash page where like they had Luther Strode and like the guy from
Mm.
Chew and all kinds of characters, but that was like literally just one splash.
And it's mostly like fodder, right? It's like background. They don't have any real connection to the story except for, oh, there's a big fight and they were there.
Yeah.
That's pretty much how it goes. Yeah. Yeah.
But I like the characters in the book.
Yeah.
I think it could have carried itself fine as its own story without trying to have other people kind of crammed into it at the same time. Like I
Yeah.
don't know if he's trying to do too much or too little, but it is fun for what it is.
It is
And then
fun.
and then
Yeah.
there was the Chip Zdarsky
Yeah.
issue, which you guys set me up. I thought it was actually going to be like all tragic and stuff. It was probably actually the funniest issue in the
Yeah. It's
book,
good.
just because how he portrays himself as being so overdramatic. I didn't know he had such a sense of humor about himself. I thought it was a
Yeah. Yeah.
really
It's good. It
really
was good. That was like the highlight issue for me. I love that. I wish there was more. Like I was telling you, we were talking like whenever we chat and stuff, and I was like, I was hoping he was gonna like get because they have like Brian Michael Bendis does an appearance in it, stuff like that. And I was hoping they were gonna like he was gonna draw Todd McFarlane there, and Spawn shows up, and they fight side by side. Like the creators with their creations end up fighting like the bad guys side by side. Like that's what I was hoping for. Stuff
well.
like
See,
that. Like Eric
that's the weird
Larson
thing
and
about
shows up with Savage Dragon, and they fight side by side. That would have been cool. Or their creations like try to kill them or something like that. Because everyone's like, in the beginning, people were like, "Oh, he's gonna get like Batman or Superman or Spider Man is gonna make an appearance," and I was like, "That's never gonna fucking happen," you know?
Yeah.
Like, but what would have been cool is you have all these image properties where he could have reached out to creators and easily gotten the okay to do like a Spawn, Savage Dragon, any of these like image characters that are a creator owned. He could have just gotten there and, can I use your likeness? You know, I'll draw you as you and write you as you. You know, and where you could like be side by side with your creation. That I would have fucking dug. I thought that would have been pretty goddamn cool. But yeah,
Yeah. Well, another thing that I thought was weird is like how much Spawn was used in the promotion material for the book, and like
for the covers,
he's never even shows up in it.
no,
Like he's like, and like you said, he's one of the characters that like you probably think would be a given to be used. The first trade paperback is called Kids Love Chains, so you figure Spawn's going to show up there because like half of Spawn's gimmick was chains, so it's kind of
yeah.
weird that like he didn't show up. Not that I
Well,
really missed him, because you know I'm not a huge fan, but
and not just that. That's a Todd McFarlane saying.
yeah. Well, I mean, and Todd
So
McFarlane,
you're thinking, and he's doing all these covers, so you think Spawn's going to play like at least a major role for at least one issue,
yeah, he'd be
and all
like,
he fucking does is show up on the covers, and that's it. There's a lot of, I think, I won't say false advertising, but you know, to get the hype train going, like kind of, he didn't say he was going to be there, but he never squashed the rumors either. Like he put stuff out there to get the rumor mill rolling and people speculating, and he just rolled with it, you know.
well, I mean, like you actually get to see more of like actually Batman than you do Spawn, because there are a couple panels where you straight up see Batman's gloves and kind of
In the
his
prison,
cowl, and
yeah,
yeah,
in that compound where they have all the heroes that are trapped from the government trying to contain all
and you
these
just see their
heroes.
gloves and their head, like in their shadows, and you can tell what characters they're supposed to be.
Yeah,
And yeah,
like
there's a lot.
Superman, Batman, all these different ones. Yeah, yeah,
I mean, it's cute, it's clever, it's a good book. I'm enjoying
yeah.
what he's done with it, even though he really does like bounce on his own dick a lot in the book. He like writes about how clever he is because he is basically a huge character in the book. So
Yeah.
I guess it's fun to play around with stuff like that. And like you said, the Michael Bendis cameo was hilarious because it was really funny to have his own creations ask him, "Do you really have to drag everything out, Brian Michael Bendis?" Like, shit was hilarious. So
Yeah, yeah. Like there's some stuff he did great, and I think a lot of people would have been on board if he was more transparent about it. You know,
yeah,
like he just let he never
'cause-
said any of these characters were gonna appear, but he never squashed the rumors either. He let people run with it, and he kind of just like, oh, I don't know, you know, like instead of being like,
well, at least he
you know,
wrote a really good, solid original characters for the book that carry it on its own. So
yeah, yeah,
like I said, like even when the new characters, the big characters, the crossover characters do show up, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot they were supposed to be in this, but it's because I was actually enjoying what the main characters
mhm.
were doing. Like
Yeah, yeah,
so
for sure.
he's
Like I
he,
enjoyed it.
yeah, he's got a hit
Yeah,
on his hands, but at the same time, like I think that the crossover stuff is a little too in the background. You know what I mean? To
yeah. For it to be called crossover and pitching it that way, like that's how it's advertised, kind of.
yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a good book, like you said. It's fun. It's a fun book.
And then I totally checked this
Yeah,
out, man. I love this. I really didn't expect to like this as much as I did because it's been a while. It's been a long time
yeah.
since I read something that Rosie's put out because I wasn't too big of a fan of his Marvel work. But oh my God, did he did not lose a lick. I think this might
No,
actually be one of the strongest things he's written.
yeah,
It's a lot of fun. Like I really can't wait to see where the third arc goes. I really hope it jumps back into the main story. I really like the back lore that we've got in the second arc, but man,
yeah.
was it a kick in the nuts to like
Oh,
get all invested and stuff, and the next thing you know, it's like, okay, here's backstory now. You're just like, oh, you dirty bastard.
yeah. For as much as I rip on that book, and it has nothing to do with the book itself, it has to do everything to do with the
The
whole the
marketing,
other
yeah,
side. Yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna definitely read that eventually. I'll probably pick it up if they put out a hardcover. I'm gonna hold out and see, and if they put out a hardcover, I'll pick up the hardcover of it. If
yeah.
not, I'll pick it up digitally on sale eventually at one point if they don't do a hardcover.
I think like I said, I think the hardcover is going to come out soon because they have a bunch of really oversized issues for the book already. So I think
Yeah,
after the second arc, they'd have enough for one of their hardcovers because there's a
because
part
deluxe editions usually run 12 issues about.
for Image. No,
Yeah,
they usually have about 2 to 3 trade paperbacks worth, but
so
like
maybe 15 to 20 issues then. So probably after the volume 3, they might put out a deluxe edition of it then.
I'd probably say after volume two because like I was saying, there's a lot of like most of the issues are double sized for the
Are
book.
they?
So
Okay.
yeah, so
Okay.
it's I think it's going to be a two story arc
Yeah.
hardcover.
Yeah, I'll keep my eyes out for that.
But and then my favorite thing that I read, I got this on the cheap. It was a
Yeah.
it's a heavy metal graphic
Hmm.
novel. It's called Bio Ripple. It's by a guy called Near Levy. He's kind of kicks it with a lot of the other cartoonists I'm a huge fan of. He kind of rolls in the same circles as like Brandon Graham and Eric. Not Eric. What's his name? James Stocco, and he's
Yeah.
got that type of vibe to him. This cover does not justify the book at all. The inside of the book is probably one of the most gorgeous things I've ever seen. Like,
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I
Yeah.
really like how he breaks narrative conventions of comic books, the way he does his panel layouts, and just how fluid and parkour style like in his book is. It's one of the neatest looking books I've ever seen. You can get it really cheap on Amazon. It's only like $16. Like I highly recommend checking out Bio Ripple. If you are a fan at all of like Aeon Flux, like you will love this
Yeah.
book. It's got the same type of movement to it, but it's also like very cerebral and
Mm.
surreal at the same
Yeah.
time. So like,
Yeah, you're the second person I've seen talk about that. Someone else a while back talked about it on Twitter, so I was like, oh, it sounded interesting. They showed a few pages, and I was like, oh, it looked cool. And then you just recently over the holidays started talking about it, and I was like, oh, yeah. So
yeah.
I'll have to check it out.
But yeah, that's pretty much all my check-in that I'm gonna. Well, I finished reading Gideon Falls. I
Oh,
I
okay, yeah,
I got both of the hardcovers,
yeah,
but like most of that was a reread. I only some of it was new. I like,
yeah.
but like I really like that. I read the Keanu Reeves comic Berserker.
Berserker, yeah,
It it's good. It's a little simple. Reminds me a lot of a couple of Greg Rucka's books. Like I was saying, it kind of reminds me a lot of Old Guard meets Lazarus. But whatever,
yeah.
man. If you're gonna copy somebody great like
Like
Rucka. So
Ruka, yeah.
I'd probably rip off Rucka a little bit if I wrote comics. So,
Yeah, he's got some good stuff.
but yeah, on to Annihilator.
Annihilator.
Before we kind of get into the synopsis, man, like Joe, what are your kind of like basic thoughts of this book going into it?
Well, I've read a few of Morrison's books now, and I see a common thread that shows up in his books is he definitely loves to blur that line between fiction and reality. Like what's real in his books and what's fiction or tricks of the mind or psychological. He likes to break down those walls and the veil between the two, where it's completely clouded, right? Where what you think might be psychological hallucinations or surreal or not real, like he breaks it all down. And this book definitely plays on that idea all the way through, and it's pretty cool. It's fun, and he loves to play with that. Like he loves to get into that weird, like surreal reality isn't really what you think it is type idea. So Annihilator definitely plays off that big time.
Right. And yeah, to kind of get set the stage for that, like this book is about a screenwriter named Ray Space who gets a brain tumor while he's
Yeah,
writing a movie. It's this big sci-fi thing that it's going to basically revitalize his career. It's been a while since he's had a hit. So like he's writing this movie that's supposed to like put him back on top, and it's about this master criminal set in this prison that's rotating around a black hole, and like this prisoner is trying to escape this prison while also cheating death to bring his girlfriend back to life.
yeah,
And that's the breakdown of the story. But basically, this while he's writing the story, he gets a brain tumor, and he finds out that the cops show up and tell him that like they're looking for the character from his movie, and like at first he thinks like, what are you guys talking about? This is crazy. Next thing he knows, he goes home and like Max
The
Nomax.
movie, the movie that it's not even out yet, that he's writing at the moment, right?
No, yeah, like basically
Yeah,
like it's a reimagining of an old surreal French comic. Basically,
French.
is
Yeah,
what Max Nomax is, and like
yeah,
he's re-envisioning him as kind of a sci-fi hero,
yeah.
anti-hero devil type guy, and yeah,
Yeah. And the screenwriter's name is Ray Space.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. He's got a cool design with that flop over with the
yeah.
shaved sides there, with the curly hair, like total like, which leads us for some great visual panels like this hair and stuff. Like it makes for some great looking panels. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It
And the
is.
story is basically because there's gods of technology, right? Is that what it is? Technological gods that create that are the creation of everything, and Max Nomax just to be a prick, right? He just plays the role and relishes the role of being the asshole. So they created like the perfect being, which would be
Olympia.
uh, Olympia, who falls in love with Max, and Max falls in love with her. But his need to spite the gods so much, he ends up killing her. Right? You made a perfect creation. She fell in love with me, and now I prove that your creation is not perfect. It's flawed. And just to spite him, he ends up killing her. But he loves her. So what he does is he puts her in like a cryo chamber, right? And this is where he tries to find a formula to cheat death to show that he's better than the gods. So
Better
basically,
than Vada, the
yeah, better
creator.
than Vada, which are like the creators. Yeah, exactly, like gods or whatever. So he's like egomaniac, uh, wants to spite Vada, which are creators, the gods or whatever, and that's how the story unfolds. He wants to escape, and
Really rad
because of
design. I love the way
yeah,
Vada is visualized. He kind of looks like this crazy version of Cyclops, like a
yeah,
screen.
yeah, and that's why he gets thrown into that space prison for killing Olympia, their perfect creation, right? But the only thing he like one of the ongoing themes is she was almost perfect because they couldn't create a soul for her, right? And where she gains her soul is by falling in love with Max Nomax. So, anyway, so that's kind of one of the themes of it is, yeah. And
Which
then
parallels Ray Space's relationship with his girlfriend,
his
Luna,
Luna,
who is
Luna,
probably one of
yeah,
the greatest characters in the book. She's basically this
European,
Eastern European girl who came over to be a movie star, but she's really pretty but can't act, so she basically got forced into becoming a prostitute or an escort, as she will
kind
have
of,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
Yeah.
And she's severed ties with Ray for many years now before she gets drawn back into the
Well,
story.
that's the thing is Ray is kind of a very problematic person. He does not treat people very well and was rather abusive to the point where she had a mental breakdown.
Yeah,
And like it's really funny when they basically there is a big space cop superhero guy that's after Max Nomax called Macro, and he is
yeah,
basically taken on the same shape as Ray Space, and he's trying to track her down. But like basically, after they save her from Macro, she is she teams up with basically Max Nomax to tear Ray down and being such a horrible person, which I think is a really hilarious scene because Max Nomax is a total piece of shit too. But like
yeah.
he's totally gloating over Ray when he's got the advantage. It's just really funny the way the characters interact with each other in this book.
But it's funny how, because like Max Nomax, Jet Marco, like you said, Macro, I mean, like these are all characters in his book. But if you look at the way they're drawn, they look, especially Jet Macro, looks a lot like Ray Space himself. So I don't know if these are like interpretations of Ray, of his own shortcomings and his flaws, like that he writes into the screenplay. Because basically, Max Nomax, when he escapes prison, he loses his memory. And this is why he goes and finds he goes through the space continuum or timeline or however reality works. He finds Ray's space to try to get him his memory back because he doesn't remember what happened, what's going on. He remembers that he was in prison and now he's out, but he doesn't remember how his story goes. So he's trying to get Ray to finish his screenplay so he knows what the next steps are to take to get to being able to bring Olympia back and back to life and everything in Nevada and all that stuff. So it's kind of weird how it plays off that. Like they're acting out the screenplay as he's writing it, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's mirrored in the what's going on, and the scenes where like the he's being told that he needs to ride by Nomax, and Ray tries to rebel and stuff are really really hilarious. There are some really really great interactions with the characters,
Yeah.
like Ray, even though he says his name is Space, like I like to call him Spaz because like check this out,
Spaz.
man.
Yeah.
He is totally a spaz, man. Like
Yeah. Oh, just like any celebrity that consumes that believes in their own hype and is ego driven and abuses alcohol and narcotics are going to be erratic and have erratic behavior, right? And are going to be incredibly selfish and ego driven. And it's no different for Ray Space. I mean, that's his character, right? And he's getting to the point where he might be washed up if he doesn't come out with a new hit screenplay for a movie. That's it. His Hollywood career could be over. Like the honeymoon will be over. So yeah, and that's where Nomax kind of promises him, kind of like, oh, like because his tumor, he says, if what
yeah, it's basically a data packet that's been fired
data
through the
packet
metaverse.
exactly. So he needs to finish the screenplay to be able to get rid of the data packet. So if he finishes the screenplay, it'll cure him. But he's just lying because Max wants to know his own story, and that gets revealed later on when he's talking with Luna. And yeah, yeah. And then, like you say, that jet macro shows up, kills a few people, takes on Ray's face, and is chasing them around. There's some pretty fun car scenes there where they're all in the car driving around and stuff, and with his agent too.
Yeah,
Some
his
pretty
agent's
funny
a really
scenes.
funny character.
Yeah, a few funny scenes with his agent. Yeah. Mm.
But yeah, um, but basically, Max Nomax is almost a Luciferian type character himself, while he is also trying to just spite the gods. Even after what he's done, he is still just this maniacal almost character who is dead set on his making his own creation, much like in the character Lucifer from the Mike Carey comics. There's some really beautifully rendered scenes by Frazier Irving of him painting like star maps and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Just oh
yeah.
man, it's just so
Those are pretty
beautiful.
cool. Yeah, that's when he's stuck on the space prison
Yeah, that he's
with
actually
with
stuck
that
in the
little
Annihilator. Yeah, with
yeah
baby
with
bug eyes.
the baby bug eyes. Yeah, the little bear with the huge eyes. Yeah, yeah. See, and it goes back and forth from because as Ray's working on the story, it reveals a lot of these things that happen on the space prison that now Max is remembering. So it goes back and forth from them running on the run, and Ray, while on the run, is completing this screenplay, and it goes back and forth to what the occurrences of what happened on the space prison simultaneously as you're reading it. It jumps back and forth, which is just pretty cool. Mm.
Yeah. And yeah, you basically you find out that there's like a dark, evil Cthulhu thing called the Orga that
Yeah,
lives on the Annihilator, which is basically you end up finding out is God's one mistake, the Vada's
yeah,
one mistake. It's and Max Nomax has no problem in pointing this out to him, but like oh man, without tragic consequences to himself. Like Max Nomax is he's a contemptible little shit, but isn't he like one of the just the coolest characters like that you've read? I mean,
yeah. Yeah. Like to the point where, yeah, I
he's a
mean, like when,
scheming little conniving guy that's always just out for himself.
yeah,
Even the last thing that he does, which does help Ray a little bit, it was just to prove that he could do it. You know,
Yeah,
like
exactly. Like, yeah, he's just an asshole, man. He's straight up just defeat his own ego, and yeah, yeah, for sure. Like everything he does is just to prove how superior he is to everyone and everything else, right? Like, yeah, it's
and I,
just driven that way.
and
Yeah,
I mean, like we can't say enough about this art. I mean, I
yeah,
it's just so beautiful. It merely makes me want to listen to like prog rock when I'm reading it. It makes me want to like throw on some like Yes or some Rush or something like that, and like totally gives me those kind of feels with like all the like really nice pastels and
yeah, yeah. And like
just
I said,
lush.
yeah, I uh, Frazier Irving is someone I found on Twitter early on. His line drawings, his black and white with inks. Oh my god, I'd love to see a book where it's not colored, just
Oh,
him, like line
he
drawings.
he did
He did
one
a
for
Judge Death.
2000 AD. No, it was the uh the simping detective. It
Okay,
was he's basically kind of like a he's like a he dresses like a clown, but he's a private eye in the
okay,
Judge Dredd universe. But like,
okay,
yeah, he's like this weird clown looking guy, and it's called the Simping Detective, I believe
okay.
is what that's called.
Because
Written by Simon Spurrier, and yeah, with black and white
he
art by Frazier Irving. And
he did a bunch of he posted a bunch of stuff of the Judge Death
oh, did he do some?
pieces he worked on. Oh my god, it was just fantastic, and that's how I found out about him at first. So I went and found a Judge Dredd book that he worked on. I went and found it and ordered it. It was a hardcover, so I went and found that, and I think it's an anthology, a Judge Dredd book anthology. I can't remember. I think Al Ewan wrote a story in it. There's a few writers and a few different artists. Anyway, and I found that had some of his work in it. So yeah, I tried tracking down some of his work right away just to. But man, he is amazing. He's such a good illustrator.
Yeah, and he's one you don't hear
Fantastic.
too much about, but like,
No, I don't know. I don't know if it's because he does mainly stuff like this. He doesn't really do much for Big Two, I don't think, or at least I haven't seen too much of.
he did some really excellent issues for Brian Michael Bendis's Uncanny X-Men.
Okay,
In between when Chris Bellacchio was doing like the main art,
the
but like
main,
but there was some few issues that Fraser Irving did the
the
art for,
break.
and
Yeah, yeah, where they break in between arcs and they have another one come on to do a mini arc
yeah,
type
you do
thing.
like two or three issues at a time, and yeah, they were really nice, really like very vivid, very colorful.
Yeah.
That was like when Terrigen Mist was a big thing, so like yeah, lots of really nice greens going on in that.
Yeah.
That was right before the Inhumans fought the mutants, but yeah, I don't know if you
Yeah.
remember that shit.
No.
But
Yeah. But his work.
Annihilator, man, like it's so very Grant Morrison, but it's one of my favorite things that he's done because he's like really refined a lot of his style. Like it reminds me a lot of like his some of his earlier works, like Flex Mentallo or what was the other one that I was just thinking of? Or the filth, but it's very much more refined. It's a lot more focused. Like the filth is you got to read a lot into it to really understand what's going on. Whereas
Yeah.
this one, it's kind of condensed. It's really just
Oh, yeah. It's not hard. The story is like you said. They're telling the story as they go, and like when he's writing his screenplay, they're revealing what happened, and it's very. You don't get lost, or there's not. Like he doesn't lead you by the hand, but he definitely doesn't leave things completely up in the air where it's completely open to interpretation. Like you said, it's got a good balance.
yeah.
Mm, yeah, and just the art in it, like you said, Fraser, like so beautiful. Like there isn't a single page in here that doesn't look awesome. Yeah. And it's not bad. It's like what? It's a 6-issue series.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
proper.
6 chapters, so 6 issues. So it's a 6-issue story. So
Yeah,
that's
and it doesn't drag. It doesn't feel rushed. I think it
mm,
could have gone a little longer. I think they could have explained a few things better, but whatever. Like I think it could have made it to 8 issues, no problem. But at the same time, maybe it would have drug if they did stretch it out.
yeah,
So
yeah, because the
like
pacing's pretty good. Mm, Like you said, it doesn't drag. There's always something going on, whether the interactions between Max and Ray themselves, or when they're getting chased, or when they go back on the space station. Uh, like there's a lot going on, and the pacing's pretty good. Yeah.
It's one of my favorite of Morrison's work, and it's one that I never get heard brought up too often.
Talk
But
about
I think it's because it's on such an obscure label. Like
label. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Probably because it's on Legendary. Yeah.
you'd figure since they were a movie company or something, they would have tried to put it out a lot better. Like maybe they just really didn't understand how to market comics. I don't even know how you market comics, so like, I mean, maybe it's not their fault, but like,
Well, I mean, Grant Morrison got nominated for an Eisner for this.
yeah, but a lot of like books that win awards and stuff like don't sell very well. So
Yeah. But I mean, it got recognized by critics, so it's surprising that not more people have talked about it.
yeah, it came out like right after he was done doing his stuff at Big Two, and I think a lot of people were angry with him about like what he did like with some of his Big Two stuff. So like it got skipped because there was a time where
Yeah.
people weren't very happy with Grant Morrison because of his the stuff that I didn't read, his like Justice League and stuff like that. So
Oh, you did some Justice League?
yeah, he pissed everybody off with his Justice League. You don't remember when he did
Uh,
Justice League?
I was never a big Justice League fan, so I never really paid attention to it.
I didn't read it either. I just know that it was hated. You know what I mean? And like it was the first time he ever really, really got like flack, hardcore.
Because he's worked on a lot of, like, he's done Batman, right? Batman and Son.
Yeah, he did. He wrote the when Batman died and when he got brought back to life, and then yeah, he wrote
Yeah.
Batman and Robin. He wrote most of that stuff where Dick Grayson was Batman. He wrote he wrote Superman All Star with him and
Superman,
Frank
yeah, that's true.
Quitely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He wrote Superman It's a Bird. He's written quite a few Superman
He's done
books
a
now that
lot
I
of
think
DC
about it.
stuff. He's done a
Yeah,
lot of DC stuff. Over on Marvel side, what has he done? The X-Men, new X-Men?
yeah, I think that that's pretty much it though. Like
That's the only thing he touched on the Marvel side, eh?
yeah, as far as I know, like
Yeah.
X Men was I I think him and Neil Gaiman kind of went over and did a few things but Neil Gaiman did a little more. He did like those Eternal books and stuff like that,
Okay.
whereas I think Morrison just did that. But then there was a lot of his buddies were writing at Marvel at the same time. That was like the same time that Ennis was over there writing, Milligan was
Okay.
over there writing,
Okay.
like Millar was the king of Marvel at the time. So
Well,
it was just an easy job for him to score, and he wrote a pretty good X Men. I'm not gonna lie. I wasn't the biggest fan of the team lineup or the look. I really hated that they put him in the little black gimp suits from the movies,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
but those are minor complaints. Like the books itself were really good, and I really liked the young characters that he brought in. I liked Beak, and Kid Omega was really good when he first introduced Quentin
Omega,
Quire
yeah.
before he got really played out in later years. But when Grant Morrison originally created him, he was a pretty interesting character. The Stefford Cuckoos, like all that stuff was really neat, really kind of fun.
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
but yeah, I mean, if you really like Grant Morrison's weird, esoteric, eccentric stuff, and you haven't checked out Annihilator, I can't recommend it enough. Like I said, I put it in the same category as stuff like Nameless and Filth, but not quite as surreal as either of those. Like it's a little more condensed, but
Yeah.
it's on the same level, the same type of trippy, very hallucinogenic looking books. Really
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, I'd say Nameless is a little more out there compared to
Yeah,
this one. Definitely a lot more. So, like you said, and I've been reading Filth a little bit right now too. I think I'm maybe halfway through, and that's like totally out there. Like, I mean,
yeah.
don't try to read it and think you're going to understand everything as you're reading it, because you won't.
I don't even think
This
Grant
is,
Morrison understands everything in the
yeah,
film, man.
but this is very comprehensive. Like, you read the story and everything. Once you get to the end, everything makes sense. Like, there's no. Yeah. And one thing I found funny is the cover, right? He's got that bug suit helmet,
Yeah.
and I think he only wears it at the beginning and at the end.
Yeah, basically, like they set it up like it's a superhero suit, but like he literally only wears it like when they show him jumping into the black hole, like to
Yeah,
come to our world.
exactly.
That's basically
Yeah,
like the reason why he wears it. And like,
because
yeah,
it's a pretty.
basically,
It's too bad because it's a pretty cool design.
Yeah, the cool ant like helmet
Yeah,
and
with
yeah.
the like energy brass knuckles. It's pretty fucking cool. Like maybe we should do another one where it's just him, like
Well, if you
just
look
an
at the
all out
back,
action.
there was supposed to be a second Max Nomax book, but because
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah. At the end, there's
it says
like they on the screen. Max, what does it say again? The
Max
final
Nomax
page,
will return in the Devil's Walk.
Devil's Walk. Yeah, maybe he will revisit it someday. I don't know. Does he?
Yeah,
Is this like legendary? Do they own the rights to this character, or does Grant Morrison own the
I,
rights to this
I
character?
I think he could probably buy it back no problem, and I think that they'd probably keep it in house. Like if they do a second book for this, I could see like Legendary, which is Warner Brothers, like just selling it to DC and this coming out as a black label.
Hmm.
And just see it carrying on just fine as a black label series. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Totally.
yeah, yeah. Because that fucking design is awesome. Like I love that design. It's pretty cool. Yeah. But you almost, it's like don't think you're gonna get this guy like punching people out with his fucking energy brass knuckles and all this shit. It's uh it's
Yeah,
definitely more, it's more about the character, and it's more about the characters really than anything else.
yeah. There's
Right?
a lot of really just funny interactions with
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's kind of like Grant Morrison's Tarantino movie. Like it's mostly
In a
contingent on the
sci-fi
dialogue
setting.
in a
Yeah.
sci-fi setting. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's mostly yeah, just really funny situations with them talking their way out of it. Like even with the big ultimatum at the end, like it's not a big action set piece. It's kind of like the characters outsmarting the villain, which is
The villain.
pretty
Yeah,
fun.
exactly. Yeah, where he's talking to him and it's like, no, I gotta have perfect concentration because he has the what do you call it? The data bullet as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's it's kind of funny. Yeah, yeah, it's pretty good. We don't want to give it all away, but yeah, there's yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty fun. Vada is like, so this book doesn't really have good guys or bad guys really when you think about it.
yeah. No,
It's just
everybody's morally ambiguous. It's just different
yeah,
shades of kind of being shitty. You got
yeah,
the righteous, zealotous, like religious, shitty people, and you got the people that are always trying to undermine them, and like the
yeah,
free thinkers and the highbrow, artistic people with their shitty
yeah.
ways. Like it's just, it's
Thinking they're
just
superior to everyone because they're more intellectually, uh, culturally and intellectually, like kind of more diverse, or yeah, yeah. So they all got a different kind of shit stuck on their shoes. Yeah,
and that's where Grant really shines. That's why I think that like he is such a celebrated creator because like he can just see these things in people and like write about them just perfectly. I think.
yeah. And I finished up the next book we're going to be talking about, the We Three.
Yeah, we're going to be
I,
covering We Three next week, which
I didn't realize it was only 3 issues.
you did not.
No, I was like, man, whoa, shit. I read it and I was like, I'm already done. I didn't realize it was just 3 issues. I thought it was 4 or 5, but yeah, it's just a 3 issue story, but it's really good. I enjoyed that one. So we're going to touch on that one next Tuesday. Yeah.
Yeah, Grant and Frank Quitely or Quietly, how
Quit.
you're supposed.
Yeah. 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 I like his style. He's got a good style. It's
Yeah,
got like that kind of Jeff Darrow vibe to his stuff.
yeah, not as detailed, but
Yeah. But still
similar,
that same kind of,
similar
yeah.
shape. Yeah,
Yeah. 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 Yeah, so we'll be hitting We Three. If I don't know how many people have read it. I think that's one of his pretty popular ones. We Three. I think a lot of people have read it.
yeah,
A lot of people talk about it. Yeah,
yeah. That's one of his first that really won a lot of awards too, which is pretty
yeah.
cool.
Mm. Well, it's kind of like in the same vein as, it's even more straightforward than this one.
Yeah, this
Like
one,
story
like
wise, it's just a straight story, right? This is what happens. Boom, boom, boom.
yeah. Well, We
It's
Three,
really
yeah, it
good.
reminds me more of like a movie like that would have came out when I was a kid, like Short Circuit. You know what I mean? It
Yeah,
reminds me like more of
yeah,
like or like RoboCop, but
yeah. Yeah, that'll be
little.
next Tuesday. Yeah.
Yeah, don't want to get too into it, but yeah,
No,
We
no.
Three is good stuff.
We Three, yeah. And then I've because we were going to cover one of the last books we'll cover is Doom Patrol, and we're still up in the air with a few other of the selections there because we have a couple other dates we have to fill out for the Grant Morrison stuff. But There's a few things I have ideas on, but we'll let you know next week. We'll finish up the lineup of what we're gonna read, and we'll let you know exactly what's going on for the next 2 to 3 weeks on all the books we'll be checking out for Grant Morrison.
Where does Grant Morrison fit in with my favorite writers? We haven't really covered it. He's quite a bit up there. Like he's very hit or miss. I do find him to be a tad overrated. I love when what I love of his. I really love what I think is mediocre is kind of bad, and like he's written some really terrible shit in my opinion. So I'd put him a little top mid tier. Like out of the British invasion, he is in my top 10, but like I rate like people like Innes and Moore and a couple other people higher, Milligan higher. But
Like the stuff he writes that you like less or that you think is shit. Do you think it's because he's mailing it in, or do you think it's because he's trying to try something new, different, and it just doesn't land, or do you think he's just mailing it in to cash in that
yeah,
check?
because he's not really writing it like Grant. There's none of the Grant Morrison that I know and love that's in there. Like it's just him, and maybe he really does really want to just write basic superhero stuff when he's writing those characters. But when I'm reading Grant Morrison, I'm hoping that like, oh man, I can't wait to see what he does with Batman. I don't want to see Grant Morrison try to write typical Batman. I want to see Grant Morrison, do his weird Grant Morrison shit with
Yeah.
these characters. And if they don't let him do that, that's not his fault either. That it all comes down to editorial. So it's kind of maybe bad of me to hold it against him, but at the same time, like I think that there are other creators that picked better books where they were able to let themselves shine, like with when Peter Milligan wrote the X-Men, and like when Mike Carey wrote X-Men, and a bunch of other British invasion writers wrote for Big Two and like really shined with some of their books. Where do you rate them, Joey?
I've only read very few things from him, but everything I've read so far has. Because let's say, what have I read? I haven't read much of his Big Two stuff. That I kind of stayed away from. I've read like Claws. I've read this just recently. We Three, Proctor Valley, Road. What else have I read? There's a few others I read
You
that I.
read Arkham Asylum, right? So
Yeah, I read that one. That one's okay.
yeah, that's probably his best DC stuff in my opinion, person.
Yeah, yeah. It's good. It's another good creative team. Him and Dean McKay, right? So yeah, it's some good stuff.
It was David McKean, right?
David McKean, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I because what was it I read? I can't remember what I read. I read something of his and I wasn't really that crazy about it, so I never really uh, searched out any of his other work to try to read more stuff. And then like We Three, see, Pat had read it and she liked it because I bought it a while back. And I read Claws and I was like, oh, he can do just that. Nameless was another one I read for the show last year, and that was kind of a weird, uh, off the wall, just fucked up book. But it was good. I enjoyed that. So yeah, yeah. Like I could see like Nameless. That's not everyone's cup of tea, right?
No,
Like some
like you
people
gotta
like it. Yeah, some people will be like, I need to know what the story means and this and that. I don't want to have to fucking
see like
hypothesize and
he
yeah.
really loves surrealist absurdity, and like he
Yeah.
goes there hard on some of his books. Namely like yeah, like The Nameless, Filth, and
Pills.
Invisibles are the books where he goes the hardest into that subject
Yeah.
matter, really. I mean he really goes into it hard in this too, but like not super deep though, not into a place
No,
where he
no,
loses you.
no, exactly. Yeah. But like Multiversity, he wrote that as well, right?
Yeah, Multiversity. He wrote
That's
Seven
usually pretty.
Soldiers, which is another really good DC comic thing that he wrote with
That's
his
one I that
Frankenstein.
yeah, that's one I saw when I was going through it. Like it when I bought the like it gives you suggestions of all his books, and I saw the We Three, not We Three, but from there it gave me suggestions from We Three after I was done reading it. And you had the like you said, Seven Soldiers Frankenstein, which is drawn by Doug Mankey, and I was like, oh, that sounds kind of fun to me. I love Doug Mankey, and Grant Morrison writing a pretty cool character like that is less known, so he probably could have editorially, like you said, they probably give him more liberties of what he can do with the character. So I'd be really interested in reading that one.
It's pretty
Uh,
cool. It's like the closest he gets to doing Hellboy, is how I'd kind of
yeah,
label it. Yeah.
maybe we'll add that one on then. I don't know. I think that's just a 4 issue. We could add it on to one of the smaller like midweek episodes maybe or something like that. I don't
I
know.
also liked when Jeff Lemire wrote Frankenstein too. It's just that
Yeah, that was pretty
DC
good. I read
Frankenstein's,
that one. Yeah, I read that one. It was pretty good with Robitelli
yeah, I
was
think
the
so.
artist. Whatever. Yeah, I like that. I like it was good. I like that character. I don't know why they should get him on like he was with the Dark Avengers for a while, wasn't he?
He should be on Justice League
Not
Dark. I don't know
Avengers,
if they ever
Justice League Dark. Yeah, Justice League Dark. Sorry, not Avengers, Justice League Dark. Yeah,
he's a good fit. Him and the Bride of Frankenstein with their four arms. Like I
yeah,
always like
yeah,
that design of her too.
yeah, yeah. Like they're interesting characters that you could probably do like that. People won't shit on if you try something with them because it has a following, but I
Yeah, and
don't
they
think
have a
it
canon,
isn't
but
like
there's a lot you could add to it because it's not full.
yeah.
It's
Yeah, it's not like a legacy character like Superman or Batman where people lose their shit if you change one small thing on it or yeah.
well, I mean, and Grant could get away with doing a lot, anyways. Like the Doom Patrol were pretty loved characters. I mean, at least for the size of the book they were, and like he completely overhauled them. I mean, like
Mm,
so, and then like he also really changed the X-Men too because like I believe he came in after Chuck Austin, and yeah,
mm,
and his X-Men were quite different. They really kind of broke the mold. So like he can get away with doing a lot, but at the same time, like I, I I do find it interesting where he can play around with characters that aren't tied down, with
yeah.
years
But
and
like you
years of
said,
lore.
his X-Men he brought in lesser known characters that he could really flex
Yeah, the
with,
kid
right?
characters, yeah, the
Yeah.
the actual
You know?
students.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. So
But
yeah.
yeah, Grant Morrison as a writer, like yeah, I'd put him at the top of the middle for my favorites. But as a person and as a human being and like an actual character of himself, I love the guy. Like I find him kind of more interesting than his writing, like as a person himself, because he is just such a strange human being. He's just really fun to learn about. So I don't know if you have ever checked out Grant, but he's definitely somebody to read about.
Next episode, you should probably put the link for that YouTube
Documentary?
documentary that you sent me. We'll put it in the next episode. We'll put the link where people can go maybe check that out and get a little more insight into the man himself.
Did you
Uh,
watch some of that?
I haven't gotten around to it. Maybe
Okay.
tomorrow I'll pop it on the telly. Yeah.
All right. That was Annihilator. I really hope we talk some of you guys into checking it out. It's such a really fun book. And I mean, the art, it should sell it alone. But I hear you. Art, it shouldn't just be what the book's contingent on. But at the same time, like, oh my God. And
Yeah.
this is every page. Like,
Frazier Irving, he's pretty good.
but yeah, this was a lot of fun. This was the first edition of Morrison Month. We're going to try to do pink spots every week this month, so look out for those. And all four are going to be Grant Morrison books. We're not sure what we're going to do next month, but we have a lot of irons in the fire. Like one thing we're talking about doing is kind of lesser known books from big creators. Like we got a couple Ed Brubaker picks, we got a couple Jeff
Hmm.
Lemire picks that aren't talked about very often. That we're going to kind of do a comics kayfabe look at type of deal with.
Hmm. Yep.
So thanks for taking the ride with us, and we'll catch you on Friday where we talk about the state of the industry. We're going to be getting a little serious with our talk. We're going to be talking about how the landscape of comic collecting might be changing pretty drastically in the next couple months to years, and just what you might want to get used to thinking about when it comes to being a comic fan again,
Hmm.
because
Indeed.
it's happening.
Yeah, it's happening. I mean, anyway, we'll get into it Friday. Like, it's not going to be like all doom and gloom, but I mean, there's definitely a shift happening
Yeah.
that something's going to have to readjust or something like that. If yeah.
And we're gonna have a couple guests on too, so there's gonna be some nice point of views, that we'll have on this show, from
Hmm.
different
Yeah, we should have
angles of
like
it.
4 or 5 people on to talk about it, so it should be fun.
Yep. So that's the plan. See you guys then. Take it
All right.
easy.